had a powerful conversation on the topic of surrender quite recently. I thought I'd share it with you today because surrender is one of those topics that there is a widespread confusion about in the whole spiritual community. Today's video will take you step by step through practical ways that you can implement surrender into your day-to-day life. So I really hope it helps you. If you're new here, my name is Sunny Sharma. The videos on this channel are aimed to help you dissolve mind identification and start to awaken to your formless self and become free from suffering your experience. Today's video is on the topic of surrender. I hope it helps you greatly. Because I've been really focusing on the topic of surrender this week, I thought maybe talk a little bit about it on today's call as well. Why? Because the spiritual practice is very dry without surrender. It feels like you're being, it's like a lot of friction, a lot of grinding. Whereas surrender smoothens things out. It puts things into perspective. It makes it flow. It makes it easier. And even on a personal level, surrender frees you from concern. It frees you from the day-to-day worrying, fearing, just by the simple act of surrender. Yet surrender is so elusive. I remember coming across the spiritual teachings, and when I heard the topic of surrender, there was like no clear guideline about surrender. What is surrender? Who knows? It seemed that it was not stated clearly anywhere. So in a way, and like as I go down the spiritual path, I see why too, because it's such a subtle thing to speak about and really acknowledge. And it's something that sort of reveals itself to everybody differently. Everybody has a different experience with surrender. However, there are some commonalities, and those are the things that we can talk about. So we'll try to cover those today. But I found that this is one of the main aspects of the spiritual practice, because surrender destroys pride. It destroys arrogance. And not the typical arrogance that we speak of. The arrogance that I'm speaking of is an arrogance that everyone here, all of us have. This pride that I speak of is the pride in doership, in being the owner of my life, in this being mine. This me and mine is the pride that surrender helps us let go. Because as long as we are me and mine, we isolate ourselves from the rest of existence or from source, however you want to put it. And this seeming isolation, we really suffer, because the moment we become isolated, that's when the worry, concern, fear, anxiety chews us up and life becomes a struggle, So I found surrender to be, along with meditation, one of the most important aspects of the spiritual journey, because it breeds within you a humility, a selflessness, a loving detachment that nothing else really can. And not also on a fake mental level, but on a real experiential level. Your entire approach towards life, it becomes colored with humility, acceptance. And surrender helps us no longer just feel like an isolated little island, which is trying to relate to other things and trying to create its well-being and hold on to it for dear life, but rather just part of the bigger picture, part of the whole. So I have some attitudes of surrender that I wish to share with you. And then know that these attitudes will be, of course, general. And you're going to have to, like, if it resonates with you, you're going to have to find a way to integrate that in your experience. And you can only do that through experimentation, regardless of how well you understand it. It can only become experiential through experimentation. And that is a process of falling down. That is a process of sometimes failing. So don't be afraid to do that. And oftentimes with these things, we sort of half get it when we hear about it. And only through real experimentation do we understand it truly. The mind wants it in a backwards way, though. It wants to first fully understand it, and then it's willing to do it. But it's the other way around. With your half understanding, you do it anyway. You have faith, you have trust, you experiment, and then you see for yourself. You learn to balance it out. And part of that is failing. Part of that is falling down. So you have to be patient with yourself, compassionate towards yourself. So when it comes to surrender, first thing to realize is that, and actually just the spiritual path, doubt, fear, resistance are your enemy on this path. It's funny though, because they seem to be practical. They seem to be your friends, but they are your enemy because they keep us in the perspective of the isolated individual. Whereas those we have to replace with trust, faith, and a sort of a letting go, being comfortable with not knowing. Because those are your friends on this path. Okay, so always keep in mind fear, worry, resistance, they appear to be my friends, but they are not. They appear to be helping me, but they are not. They keep the veil very strong. They keep the pride and arrogance of being an individual, so and so, alive. They do not need to be fought. They cannot be fought. Just like the darkness in a room cannot be fought. All you must do is turn on the light. So fear, anxiousness, the light in this scenario is trust and faith. Keeping that in mind, it's easier to navigate the journey. So the first attitude in which we will implement this is something we spoke about on a previous meditation, which is every morning, this is something that has to be recommitted to until it becomes your natural attitude. Every morning, sort of have this, you can say, conversation with yourself, a conversation with source, just an inner sort of even an affirmation that you're totally surrendering yourself to whatever happens today. Having this attitude that whatever happens today, whatever arises today, is exactly what should happen today, exactly what must happen today. And you're going to trust that, and you're going to have faith in that. You're going to live by that. Despite if something happens that you do not agree with, something happens that doesn't seem like a favorable circumstance for you, but just today, whatever arises, I'm not just going to react and resist, but rather I'm going to take it as something that must be happening today. And that it all is my path. It is all helping me grow in spiritual understanding, in understanding of who I am. We do this in the morning, even just for a few seconds, to just acknowledge and reaffirm that, okay, that is my attitude towards everything that happens today, because it puts everything into perspective. Now, the fight that you have with someone in your family, you're not just going to be so hung up in exactly like what that is and what it means for you personally. You're just going to be in a bigger picture of it. Like, okay, this has happened. This is exactly what needed to happen. Perhaps it's going to teach me something. Perhaps I'm going to take away something from it. Perhaps the flat tire you get on your way to work, you're not just going to be so caught up in that particular situation. You're going to see it from a greater perspective. This daily sort of just attitude of surrender, that whatever is happening today, whatever is arising, I'm not just going to battle and resist it. I'm going to take it as part of the movement, part of the path. It's all the path. The path isn't just flowers and roses. It's the good and the bad. And I have to start to acknowledge that if I'm to let go of this resistance. So now, of course, when you do go about your day, though, all these emotions will be arising, that, like, let's say something unfavorable does happen, your mind will resist, it will react. That is where the practice of acceptance comes in. That is where you have to start to learn to disengage from your mental chatter and just start to observe sensation, observe the feeling, observe the emotion. Notice how this is what you're learning with surrender, that whatever is happening, the mind always has a reaction towards. Always, even like here and now, this moment, this conversation, this topic that we're talking about today, there's already a reaction that's happening to it. Observe this within yourself. Perhaps you find this really boring, and your mind is reacting like, I wish I was talking about self-inquiry. I wish we've already heard about this, or maybe this. So there's always already reacting. Or perhaps there's a positive reaction. The reaction doesn't have to necessarily be bad. Something's like, okay, I'm glad we're talking about surrender trade, because I need this right now in my phase of life. So with surrender, you're learning that, like, whatever is happening and the mind's reaction to it are both equally observed. And that regardless of what is happening, I need not believe in this mental reaction. I need not give into, pursue, identify with whatever reaction is happening. You're acknowledging your role as the witness. Surrender places you ever more so in your role as the witness, establishes you in that. Because in order to surrender, you must be in a position that is subtler than the reacting mind, because the reacting mind is always trying to control, always trying to manipulate, always resisting, always clinging. The reacting mind is the pride that you are surrendering through observation. So as this day unfolds and things happen, some things good, some things bad, you're acknowledging that you are prior to your mental reaction, and that you no longer have to feed and identify with whatever the mind is reacting as. That is not who I am. That is not what I am. You start to gain depth in your understanding of yourself, in your reference point from where you live, perceive. Now, a second attitude of surrender that closely relates with this, as this day goes on, do what you have to do. There's many personal responsibilities. Maybe you have some goals. Maybe there are certain things that you're trying to do in your life. You do your work, and you do it really, really well. You do your best you can at it. But you leave the results to life. For what are we usually worried about? We are just worried about the result. You're not really worried about your work. From your side of things, you can do what you can do. You're going to do whatever is in your capacity to do. What we worry about is if that will be enough, if that will be good enough for this result or that result, if Other people are going to like my whatever I've done. Are they going to approve of it? Is this going to lead to a favorable result? All that stuff. That is what occupies our psychological chatter, keeping us in illusion, in suffering. So, this attitude of just working without expectation or worrying about result allows you to just do your work, do what you're here to do, and do it well to the best of your capacity. And you totally leave the result to life. Now, this does get difficult when you've been doing the work and maybe you're not getting the result you want. But again, surrender to that. Only because we expect something of what we do we resist maybe the delayed result or a different result. Yet we don't know where our personal journey is going. It's good to acknowledge that everything that really, amazing that has happened to your life often happened. Many things that were amazing that happened to you were very unpredictable, things you didn't plan. So even when you sometimes just keep working towards something, but you're not really getting a result, or you're getting a different result, or a very delayed result, just be surrendered to that. Let your personal journey flow as it must. But ultimately, surrender is more so about your spiritual growth. So no matter how your personal journey is unfolding, take that to be exactly how it needs to be unfolding for me to grow in spiritual understanding. This will imbue within you the sense of detachment within the personal things. And it will give you the strength to just continue working without needing a particular result. Because you're seeing that the results that I'm getting on a personal level about this work thing or this relationship thing, they're all like on the surface. They're fine and all. But ultimately, what's really happening with surrender is I'm growing in wisdom, understanding, compassion, peacefulness, happiness. So always have the greater spiritual treasure in mind. But let life even take care of that. Know that through surrender, it's already happening. How it chooses to express itself in your life and make its way in your life is not your job. Let life take care of that. You're like delegating the responsibility for your results, material and spiritual, from your mind to life. And have this deep trust and faith. Why? Because that is what is necessary to dispel these ghosts of fear and anxiety and worrying, concerning. You can't make them go away. You can't fight them. You just have to turn on the light. The light is trust, faith. Trust and faith are what allow you to step out of your isolated island into the lap and embrace of life. These words become so true for you the more you practice them. Now, about your desires. So I often get asked the question, Sunny, do I pursue my desires, or do I have to, in order to be surrendered to this teaching, to the self, do I have to totally let go of all desires? Now, this is a very subtle thing, the subtle waters you're going to be treading in the spiritual teaching, where you may fall into the trap where you come across this teaching of letting go of desire, becoming free from desire, and you find yourself creating a desire to get rid of your desire. And the desire that arises, you're going to have resistance towards it. So once again, you actually fall into resistance of what is. So here is where desire now takes on a brand new role. Your relationship with desire itself changes entirely. The personal desire will arise. It will continue to steer your personal journey. For example, you may have certain inspiration, things that you want to pursue, work-wise, creativity-wise. You will have certain preferences as to what you like and don't like, what you want and don't want, what you enjoy and don't enjoy, how you want your life to be set up. So these desires you should pursue. Make them happen, because that is how your journey is unfolding. However, You are now learning to see these desires as more so superficial rather than dire needs that you need to be fulfilled in order for you to be happy. So no longer are you resting your sense of happiness, well-being, and fulfillment within the fulfillment of these desires. Because now you're seeing that actually, no matter how many personal desires I fulfill, it only breeds more and more desire. So you're not being fooled by this anymore. However, you're no longer resisting desire. Some things, I agree, you will just totally let go of because you'll see that it's just the mind craving, wanting. But certain things that are going to be relevant to your experience, to your theme, to your authentic expression of whatever this is, right? For example, Sunny, the expression is to share this teaching, to make these videos. That is an inspiration that I pursue. For you, it may be some sort of other art or creative endeavor or business or music, whatever it is. Or even just, you wanting to be the best parent to your child, and you want to do your best and learn all these parenting things in order to be the best parent. So whatever that inspiration takes form as is not a problem. Live your full expression totally, freely. Let this expression be what it is meant to be, free from fear of the future, free from fear of denial. Just let this move. But now you're seeing that these desires aren't ultimate needs. They are just what are steering the movement of this journey, of this personal journey. And ultimately, by me pursuing my goal of whatever it is, career-wise, relationship-wise, personal, life-wise, now I'm seeing that it's more so about the journey that unfolds because of these desires. When I pursue these desires, whatever I go through in this process of fulfilling this desire, I learn so much about myself. I constantly face limitation. I constantly become all that is trying to find its way out of me, right? Is trying to be let go of, is revealing itself in order for me to deal with it. And so now you're seeing that this journey that's unfolding of this desire is actually bringing forth all in you that needs to be let go of. And that is really ultimately what this is about. Rather than fulfilling the object of this desire, which is on a personal, superficial, surface level, it's more so about the wisdom, the spiritual growth that comes from the journey that unfolds. So when you have this in perspective, when you are seeing things in the correct way, in this way, then you have a greater sense of detachment from the personal journey. And now when unpredictable things happen, you're not going to be so reactive. You're not going to care so much. You're going to allow it. You're going to let your life unfold however it is. And ultimately, you're not even going to be so attached to if this desire becomes fulfilled or not. Because even you are seeing that even in the non-fulfillment of this desire, my life is showing me exactly what I need to be experiencing in order to grow in the way that I need to grow, in order to understand what I need to understand. And for that, you'll be grateful. You'll be thankful. So yes, pursue desire, but ultimately don't be so bought into it. It is not about the fulfillment of the desire, but rather the spiritual wisdom, the understanding that is developing and unraveling itself to you as you pursue the journey of fulfilling the desire. This gives you inner freedom and outer freedom. This is what I would like you to practice. Now let's get back into the video. But by the way, if this video is helping you so far, and if it's bringing you great value, then please hit the like button underneath this video so that YouTube can also spread this teaching to more people. Okay, I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to it. And this is closely related to the next point. Give yourself over to life. Let life take care of your well-being and safety. You're already doing what you are doing on a personal level. You're taking care of whatever you need to take care of, doing your work, doing the day-to-day stuff. But notice how much we are plagued with a sense of concerning for our future safety, concerning for our future well-being, concerning for our future responsibilities. Those are the only things you're really giving over to life. You're surrendering your future well-being, which seems to be so uncertain. at the helm of so many different factors, you're delegating that responsibility to life, knowing that life has far greater power and the capacity to organize an infinite number of events to orchestrate your well-being, whereas you can only find a few ways, out of which half are negative and things, so it's just you're surrendering all of that over to life. You're stepping into the unknown, into trust, into faith. Not only will your life become easier, not only will you become free from worry, not only, right? Like, because you're turning on the light. Once you really start to live in surrender, then you don't have to worry so much about getting rid of your anxiety, because they both cannot go together. If you're in anxiety, you're not trusting, you're not letting go, you're not just becoming free with it. But the moment you trust, then your scenarios of the future become irrelevant. They will stop having a pull over you because you're in trust. So try to see that, try to experiment with that, how you cannot both trust and be anxious, trust and be fearful. Concern and trust do not go together. It's like fire and water. So let the water of trust or faith totally dissolve and dissipate the fear, the anxiousness. And even like in little scenarios, sometimes when you don't get what you want, or someone, maybe you do get hurt, don't take that as, oh, life is not taking care of me. No. Personally, let your life unfold. I always try to express this to my family because, like I have many people in my family who are like really like to fight for what they want. Even like, let's say at like if a cashier does something that, there's like, oh no, we got to get our way. And I don't really try so hard to express this to them if that conversation isn't already happening. But it's like, life is not about winning the little day-to-day battles. You may really get your way in little day-to-day battles, but you may totally lose your peace for it. Whereas one who lives in trust and surrender may not always get what they want in little day-to-day situations and circumstances, but overall, their life unfolds in a much more effortless way. Whereas people who really like to fight for what they want, for their righteousness and their justice and whatnot, sometimes they totally lose themselves to those little things. And even when they do get what they want, they're still not at peace. It's almost like winning an argument. You may totally succeed in proving the other person wrong, but you don't feel any better afterwards. It robs you of your peace. So try to understand that it's not about winning the day-to-day little things. You may not always get what you want, but don't take that as a form of life not taking care of you. In the greater picture, life takes care of life always. And if anything, sometimes you do need to get hurt. Sometimes you do need to not get what you want. And that unfolds into something far greater, a far greater reward than what you were fighting for. Okay? So as we live in faith and trust, automatically concern will start losing its grasp over you. Now with this, as you go through your day, one of the easiest ways to check in with yourself is always be in acceptance of this moment. See where you are resisting. See how the mind is reacting. Seeing that you don't have to identify with that anymore, you simply practice acceptance. You disengage from your mind's narrative, which is really situation focused, which is really that perspective coming from that isolated little island, feeling separate from all things. So you disengage from those narratives and you just come back to reality, meaning awareness of sensation, awareness of what is. Acknowledge where you are in conflict with what is. In this moment, make sure you are not in conflict. See that in this moment, just with what is here present right now, that you're not in battle, right? Clinging or resisting. And anytime you are in battle, just turn the light switch on. Awareness of what is. Simply being aware. Awareness of sensation will always bring you back to your true perspective of being aware, which is no conflict. Just like all we always talk about, the space of this room is not in conflict with the objects. Even when your mind is reacting, the awareness of it is not in conflict with it. Anything could be happening circumstantially, and the mind could be reacting to it in any different way. Mind could be totally restless, could be totally turbulent, yet the awareness, which by the way is you're looking, you are aware, you're simply aware, totally, without division, without saying this is good or bad. So with the practice of acceptance, awareness of what is, awareness of sensation, it just brings you back to your true position, seated in the position of acceptance, of allowance, because awareness is mere allowance. Awareness does not accept. Awareness is acceptance. Awareness is allowance, just like space is allowance. So we must become totally acclimated with that principle of acceptance. Forget about the later, but here and now, am I in conflict with what is? Not just like, like don't make, it's not about ideas of what's happening and whatnot, but just here and now, is this sort of resistance present? And if it is, that's okay, but just learn to observe it. You no longer need to act as it. It is observed. It is in your seeing. It is at a distance from you. It is not what you are. When you observe it at the bodily level, just awareness of sensation, it starts to lose its power over you. So when we combine the general attitude of surrender that we've just been talking about, right? Trust, faith, letting go, trusting that life is taking care of life, relaying your sense of well-being and safety over to life, delegating that responsibility. Now, along with that greater general attitude, with the specifics of this moment, you're practicing acceptance. So you're being given the greater picture, like the attitude, which is more general on how you're living your life, but also being given the actual practice that you have to do in the little teeny tiny details. You combine both. Acceptance will always help bring you to the position of no resistance, simply aware, allowing. That is where your stability lies. So whenever you do lose your stability, return to yourself. And just lastly, with all of this, have this sort of, you can feel free to have this inner relationship with Source, with God, with reality. Know that you're being taken care of. Know that you're being guided. Especially in your spiritual pursuit. This teaching is making its way into your life, and there's a pull towards it. Continues to be persistent in its coming into your experience. Look at it in this way, that there is a just to like personify this, and usually we don't do that here, but think of it as like reality or Source or God is like placing this in front of you, these principles, these teachings, compassionately, gently, again and again, trying to remind you, again and again, telling you it's fine, it's okay, let go, trust, faith, let go. And so have this relationship, this attitude that you are being guided. Take the guidance. Take the leap of faith into trust, into the unknown. Whether you fall down, whether you get hurt, however everything is going, just feel guided. Feel like I'm being taken care of. I am life more than what I take myself to be, The source of me is the source of all things. There's not separate sources of different things. Everything arises from one source. Take that to be you being guided. This teaching coming into your experience, take that to be an expression of what source is continuously putting in front of you to remind you and to help you. So take that guidance, have trust, have faith, and surrender to that. So when you carry these attitudes through life and you combine that with meditation, which is becoming empty, right? In the moments of practice, you're just becoming totally empty. It makes a really powerful mix. It makes your personal life much easier, much simpler. But also spiritually, it continues to unravel all of the layers of cloud that are the veil, which keep us identified with what arises, with what appears, with the known. This is totally different than anything we've done in our lives, so it is a little bit you have to balance and get through, but it makes a really good mix, surrender and meditation. So just to recap, and then we'll wrap it up, okay? Every morning, surrender yourself. Have that sort of attitude that whatever arises today, whatever is happening is exactly as it should be happening. Everything is flowing towards my spiritual growth and understanding. And then through the day, without expectation of result, just keep doing, keep working, do what you have to do, and let life take care of the results. Delegate the responsibility of results to life. Whatever result is coming, take that to be exactly what should be coming. Whatever result is not coming, take that to be exactly what should not be happening. It's fine. You're placing greater faith and trust in life's wisdom than your own intelligence that, you think you know everything. You think you know everything about how everything should be in your life. You don't have that same confidence with someone else's life because, there's no identification there. And of course, this is my life and this is my expression, but you're also now becoming empty of that pride and arrogance. Give it over to life. So that is the next point. Give yourself over to life. Let life take care of your well-being and safety. So not only of results, but also the responsibility for your well-being and safety, which you're only worried about your future well-being and safety. Somehow now you always seem to be taken care of, but that's not enough evidence. So for your future well-being and safety, you're delegating that responsibility to life as well. On a personal level, you just continue to do what you have to do to take care of your responsibilities and do things. And the rest, the ultimate, how will things work out worry, you're totally just surrendering that. You're turning on the light switch of faith and trust, dissolving the darkness of fear, anxiety, and concern. On a moment by moment level, always make sure you are not resisting this moment, resisting what is. So this is where the practice of acceptance comes in. Awareness of what is, awareness of reality, awareness of sensation. And then lastly, having this inner relationship with source, feeling guided, have that sense of inner dialogue or conversation or feeling connected. Know that everything that is happening is exactly as it should be. I'm being guided through this teaching, through what is coming into my experience day to day, through my YouTube feed or the books that come into my life, the people that I meet, the lessons that I learn. Everything is the
expression of source helping you. Life is your guru. No book, no person, no, all these are just expressions of that, of the real guru. So you have this and you implement these attitudes along with the meditation, and then like, what is there to suffer? You'll start seeing how freeing it is, how empty you become of all of these things which create so much dysfunction in life and keep us in a state of suffering. And then the spiritual practice, with surrender, it becomes a joy. It becomes a smooth process rather than mechanical or dry, boring, a chore. Yeah. So it's beautiful. And I invite you to try it out.
I really hope today's video helped you. If you would like to learn more about my School of Awakening, which is a day-by-day meditation program, which helps you dissolve mind identification and start to awaken to your formless self, become totally silent within. You can learn more about it in the description box below. Also, I have many free resources which will help you go deeper into these teachings of meditation, self-inquiry, and acceptance. Really just to overall become more and more established in your true position, in the truth of who you are. So please also check those out in the description. That's it from me for today. I will see you next time.